Hello there, people of the internet. This right here is a C grade 8890 that I picked up not too terribly long ago. Doesn't look like a C grade right now, and that's because I got around to doing a very mild restoration to this. I didn't really restore it. I more or less refurbished it, which is what I'm going to call it, and I did that in a very specific way. I wanted to specifically set this rifle up to where it looks like it has not been refurbished or restored, and to where it only looks like it's in really good shape. And we'll go through some of the steps that I did to go ahead and make that happen. I cannot show you guys the actual restoration process. YouTube would count that as firearms modification, but I can go ahead and talk to you guys about what it is that I actually did. So this right here is the 8890. You guys can go back and watch the unboxing video if you want. This is the one that does not have the broken stock right here, right on the area where you grip your hand. My other 8890 has like this sheet metal that's been bent around that broken stock area. And it's very steampunk looking, and I'm definitely leaving that one the way that it is. But this one was in a very rough shape, and I wanted to go ahead and clean it up and do a mild refurbishment on it. So I'm sure that you guys can see it looks significantly better than it did before. On the other side of the 8890 here, we have this very large crack that goes down the entire stock. I tried to fix that the best that I could, but man, it was messed up. I tell you what, there's pieces of wood that's missing on the inside, and there's this really old repair that was done on the back of the stock, and things didn't really line up all that well. So like I said, I tried my best for fixing that, and I think that all things considered, it turned out pretty gosh darn well. I'm sure a lot of you guys are noticing, if you've seen the unboxing video, that this right here has significantly more bluing on it than it originally did. And yes, I did kind of do a re-bluing on this. However, that being said, well, I wanted the bluing on this to look like it was original, and I wanted it to not look like it was a refurbishment. So if you look at the bluing here, you'll actually see how it's not quite perfect, and that it's not quite the way that it's supposed to be. And it definitely looks like it's been worn down. And that is intentional. I did that on purpose. And I actually did that. It was harder to do that than it was to do an actual regular rebluing. With a normal rebluing, what you would do, in this particular case, I did a cold bluing. You would take your bluing compound, whatever it is that you're deciding to use, and you would try to get as even of a coat as possible. And you would try to, try to make sure that the coat that you're putting on is as even as possible so you don't get any of these rippling effects. But instead, what I did is I actually took a paintbrush and I did multiple layers of me dabbing the metal with this bluing compound to kind of give it this look of artificial, what would you call it, retroing? That's the word I'm going to call it. It kind of looks like it's worn down. If I really wanted to, then I could change this to a much, much stronger, better bluing, but that's not really what I was going for. I wanted this to look like it was original. So there's parts on the rifle that are very well blued, and parts of the rifle where I feel like it would get the most wear, that the bluing looks like it has been worn down. Like over here by the sights, you can see how the bluing right here on the rear sight is not quite as thick as it would normally be, and it's kind of shining through a little bit. That definitely looks like it could potentially be original bluing. Right here on the sights, I only gave it like a half coat, and I just really, really like the way that the bluing turned out on this rifle. It definitely does not look like this rifle has been re-blued, and that's kind of the aesthetic that I was going for. I went ahead and I grabbed some steel wool and I polished up this bolt. Now it is all nice and bright and shiny, and it looks really good with the bluing that we have on the metal. The stock, I cleaned it up the best that I could. I pretty much just scrubbed all the crap off of it. There's not a whole lot of finish left on this thing, and it definitely needs to be oiled, so I'll definitely get around to doing that. After cleaning it up, I found right here on the rear of the stock, you can kind of see it on camera, there's some carvings and some trench art from the Ethiopians that had this rifle before I did. So that's always a nice little piece of history to have that you're not always going to be able to find on a lot of your military surplus firearms. The Ethiopians were very notorious for it, though. So if you pick yourself up an Ethiopian rifle, odds are you're going to see exactly that. Now, on the muzzle end of the rifle, I'm sure a lot of you people remember that the muzzle end was actually broken, and there's not much that I can do about that. I can't do much with missing wood, so I went ahead and I just took some wood glue and I fastened that down the best that I could, got it nice and solid, and that's kind of what it is that we're working with right there. So that's as good as that right there is going to get, because I can't replace the wood. This right here, whenever I had first gotten it, it was not functional. I'm still waiting for the extractor to come in. I do have one ordered. So, yeah, that will be an extractor. I am a reloader, and I do make my own 8x50 brass, which I can fire 8x50 through this. So that gives me ammo to fire through this. Since this right here is the flapper locking system, I do undercharge that ammunition, so it's not a full power round, so I get as much longevity out of this rifle as I possibly can. Besides that, also whenever I'd gotten this rifle, the bolt wouldn't fully close all the way, so I got into the internals. There's a piece of metal in there, pulled that out, cleaned up the bolt a bunch, polished it up a bunch. Now it looks good, and it is actually functional. Not only that, but it is actually quite smooth. Look at that. That's not something that you would normally look at and get with an RTI rifle. This right here is the C grade $99 RTI special from whenever they were having a flash sale on their 8890 rifles. And I'm glad that I picked this one up whenever I did, and I'm glad that it turned out as beautiful as it did. The stock looks fantastic, assuming that you don't look at the broken spots. Yeah, the stock actually turned out a lot better than I was expecting. Literally all I did was just kind of clean it up. You can still see tons of little scratches and dings and nicks, and that's what you get for a 140-year-old rifle from the Ethiopian stockpile that was found. And on this side, it's all busted up and broken up, and you can see where the glue's coming out, because whenever the stock was broken, I'm assuming that they kept using it, and it's just a mess. It's a mess of a rifle, but oh goodness, I just bumped my camera again. It's a mess of a rifle, but it is functional, and it does look a lot better than it did. And the refurbishment that I had going on here, it still looks like it is in its original configuration. It doesn't look like it was actually refurbished, and that's something I'm very proud of. I love the way that the bluing turned out, because that definitely does not look like it is original bluing. I love the way that, like, in the little wear spots where the bluing is thin, I spent a lot of time trying to get the bluing just right on this thing. I think it turned out absolutely phenomenal. Very, very pleased with that. So that is the 8890. I would like to take this out to a range. If you want to see that, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help me get there, Patreon and Utreon are below. I'm selling t-shirts if you want to help the cause, and you can do a one-time donation through that t-shirt page if you feel like it. So all this being said, I'm going to go ahead and say thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.